And the very first success principle is to take 100% ownership of your life, right? And there's an
Okay.
equation that goes along with it. E plus R equals O. And it's event plus response equals outcome.
Welcome, welcome to the Entrepreneur and Leaders Evolution series, where we work with from mindset to skill set and all the things in between with the business and personal growth of entrepreneurs and leaders. I am happy to bring on Miss Whitnie Wiley today, who has wearing many beautiful hats and wearing them well. She is a real estate strategist, she is a lawyer and a coach, and the managing director of eWomen's Network. So we are talking about a powerhouse here, and we get to pick her brain today for a power hour. So without further ado, I want to introduce Miss Whitnie and let her tell you all about her roles, and let's get to know her for a minute.
Well, thank you, Dr. Nina. It is a pleasure to be on your program. And yeah, those are like some of the labels that I wear. And what's the interesting thing is that we all wear lots of labels.
Don't
And
we?
it comes down to the labels that we choose to be very intentional about. And that's one of the things that I strive to do with my clients, with friends, family, is like let's get clear about what we're doing. Right. Let's be clear about what we're doing and intentional about the labels that we are choosing to put into the world. Because if we don't do that, someone else is going to do that for us.
They
Right.
sure will.
So, and they don't always choose the ones that are most appealing or that put us in the best light. So it becomes our responsibility to do that. So, in addition to the things that you mentioned, I am an author and a trainer, and all of this comes about. I joke that I started on this path when I was 3, and when I was 3, I became a big sister. And so
Mm,
that what comes along with that is teaching and training, and not intentionally, not looking to go in that direction, but that's just a natural part of who I have been since that time. And what I see is sort of a through line in my life. It has been about helping people be the best they can be, to do the things that they want to do, to have the things that they want to have. And then about 13, 14 years ago or so, I was noticing that people were coming to me in my
mm.
work. I was working at that time as a lawyer and a lobbyist, and people were coming to me asking for advice about careers and transitions. And the really interesting thing, Dr. Nina, is that I had not seen my life at that point as having it all together, right?
Mm.
I had, had a very circuitous route to becoming a lawyer and a lobbyist. And I waited tables. I was a receptionist at a small museum. I had done all kinds of things trying to figure it out. And eventually, I had a moment where I had to ask myself, what are you, you going to be when you grow up? And sitting with myself, I thought about the things that I was good at, the things that I really enjoy doing, and how can I put those together to have the life that I wanted.
Yes.
And I had just gone through a divorce and an ugly custody battle, and I really needed to figure something out because I didn't want to be a statistic.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, the numbers for poverty for women out of divorce is staggering, right? And
Mm.
what I knew is that I didn't want to be a statistic. And so I was going to say figure something out. Learn that using the phrase figure something out is not the best way to phrase things. So I had to make a decision and
Gotcha.
take some
Okay.
action that would lead me where I wanted to go. And it was
Mm.
through that and that experience that I started to develop my thought process mindset around leadership and career development, career management, and ultimately that's what led me into coaching. Coaching led me into some other things, and my husband ultimately led me into real estate. And so my
Mm.
second husband. So he led me into real estate, and it has been and now about figuring out how to bring all the pieces together, right? As I take each step and acquire a new skill or new education, how to bring those pieces together so that I can continue to be true to myself and true to the people that I serve. And before we got started, I made a comment about harmony and being harmonic in all of that, right? True to
Right.
myself, true to my values, true to the things that are a priority for me and my husband and our family so that it as best as possible. It's not perfect, but as seamless and harmonic as possible.
Very interesting story. And thank you for sharing it. Thank you for sharing it. I did
You're
not know
welcome.
that about the
Yes.
statistics with women in divorce and the statistic of ending up in poverty. I did not know that. So I'm actually going to look up exactly what that is. But that hits home a little bit. So that's good to know. Okay. So many, many, many hats. If it's okay, can you share a couple of those hats? Tell us a little bit about eWomen's Network.
Absolutely. I was gonna say I'll start with eWomen Network because I think that's the connection that we had that brought us together, that got us introduced. And so my role is managing director of the Sacramento chapter of eWomen Network. So eWomen Network is a global organization. It is in its 26th year. It's led by CEO Sandra Yancey out of Dallas, and there are chapters all around the globe. She started this 26 years ago because she was looking for community and connection and the ability have to be able to grow in a way that wasn't happening in traditional networking
Mhm, mhm,
organizations. And so, and I don't think it's about bashing what anyone else is doing. It was about figuring out what worked for her. And
mhm.
in particular, women, because men and women don't necessarily network the same. We don't
True.
relate the same. And networking and growing in your business, particularly service based businesses, right,
Mhm,
is about building relationships and building that connection. And so she started the organization and she always jokes that she was the first managing director. And what happened was other people started asking her to come to cities that they were in. And obviously, you can't be everywhere at once. And so the model she developed was around managing directors. And so my role as a managing director is to support the women who are in my chapter, and that's what managing directors all around the globe do, right? We are there to support the members of the chapter, and we do that through a number of ways. It's education and training, right? And so providing opportunities for the women to learn how to be a CEO, not just a business owner or a
mhm.
hobbyist, which is what a lot of people who are in business
Yes.
actually are doing. It's a hobby and they're making some money at it.
Mhm,
And so, how do you actually turn that into a profitable, growing business? And then to be able to not only grow it, but if you want to scale it. And so
mhm,
that ultimately is what eWomen Network is about, is helping women to grow, to start, grow, scale their business. And the mission of the organization is to help 1 million women entrepreneurs earn $1 million or more, right? And $1 million is a good first start. And so how do you do that? The things that are needed, having systems, having a way to grow your customer or your client base and but live the life that you want to live. And that's what I find really appealing, and an area where there was real synergy and an alignment of values with how I choose to live my life and run my business is that I don't let my business run me. I didn't let my career run me when I worked for someone else. It was about the life that I wanted to live and how does that support what I want to do rather than the other way around. And no disrespect to anyone who wants to do it a different way. If they want to grind, grind. right? That's not how I want to live my
Yeah.
life. I want to
Yeah.
enjoy my life. When I go on vacation, I don't want it to have to be checking emails and phone calls and things like that. I want to go and let it all go. Some people, they want to do it a different way, and they're welcome to do that. And what I found with my clients, particularly those who are still employees managing careers, is that they were feeling this sense of burnout and always on the
Yeah.
go and never being able to let go of the work so that they could enjoy their lives. Here I come to say that you can, while you I don't wanna say you can't have everything. Sometimes you can't have everything now, right?
Yes.
In
Yes.
this moment, you may not be able to have everything because there are trade-offs in life.
Hmm.
You have to make decisions, you have to make choices, you have to get clear about what your priorities are, and then you're going to make decisions that are going to say that today, right? And when I say about harmony and balance in my life and in my work, that is not to say that there aren't times when I'm like fully focused on the work.
Yeah.
And then there are times when I'm fully focused on taking care of me, whether it's self care or taking care of my husband or family, whatever it is. But being in a position where I get to make those choices and don't have to feel like I don't have the autonomy to make
Hmm.
those choices. And it really hit home for me a few years back. I was working with a client who aspired to be general counsel, and she was working at the time in a role as assistant general counsel. And she said to me that she hadn't been on vacation in like 15 years. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. So you want to have this position that has more responsibility than the one that you currently have. She hadn't been home, on a regular basis to have dinner with her family. When she went home at the end of the day, she was still working. And I was like, and you want to be general counsel? You know, this is going to require more of you. And how are you going to do that without being really clear about what's important to you? And so
Hmm.
we worked through the process. And it really was in working with her and a couple of others that I started to put together the concepts and the frameworks that I use with my clients. And the beautiful thing is that they dovetail so beautifully with the work that I do with eWomen Network
Nice.
and helping the members of my chapter, and I know this of the other managing directors as well, is getting to know the women in the chapter, what their businesses are, what their hopes and dreams are, what their goals and values are, so that we can bring resources. It's not just me, right? But to bring resources to bear through education and training, etc., connections that help them to build and grow their business in a way that stays aligned with what they truly want.
Percent agree. 100%. That's a part of actually my mission as well with what I do. So I'm like fully on board
Nice.
with that. I actually have a program called Mind Your Business for entrepreneurs, and it's very aligned with that. It's about not work, like you said, it's not work life balance 50-50, but it's about managing certain pillars that we have because life and business are one and the same. Like it's not in this box, it's not in this whole of itself, right? You have to run your life and your personal life and you have to run your business. And it's about managing both of those with grace
Yes.
and not really like losing a part of yourself in the process. So I completely,
Absolutely. And I
completely
love that you said that, right? That with grace, right? Because we're not going to get it perfect all the time. There are going to be times when we're going to wish we had done something else or
mhm,
that we were somewhere else. And it is that grace that becomes it's not some, I don't know. I guess I've never actually, until this moment, I've never thought about this. What figure of speech grace is. But I'm thinking, right, it's a decision, right? It's a decision. I was thinking maybe it's an emotion. Maybe it's an emotion, but it's really a decision, right? To give yourself grace and permission to be okay with what is.
Mhm.
and to make the best decision you can in the moment with the information that you have, and then let it go, right? Be okay with letting it go because you can't undo something that you've already done.
I agree. Just curious, like as a managing director and just as a coach, because they go hand in hand, what have you noticed as far as the entrepreneurs that really seem to scale and grow and those that are stuck?
So I definitely have noticed it's a mindset and unpacking the limiting beliefs that people have, taking the time to understand where those come from, not in a therapeutic way. I'm not a therapist. And when I'm working with coaches, I'm always saying you're right, you're not coaching. I mean, you're coaching, you're not doing therapy unless of course you're a therapist, right? And as someone who is not a therapist, it's not my job to go back and like psychoanalyze why they feel and do what they do. But I do believe that it's important to understand where our thoughts and behaviors come from so that we can address them. And what I find most frequently is really high performers, entrepreneurs who are growing and scaling, is that we have to be willing to continuously evolve into the person we need to be for the next stage and evolution of our business or
Mhm.
career, right? So, what you needed and who you needed to be when you launched your business is very different than who you need to be to grow and scale your business.
Oh, true.
And learning to let go of things, learning to delegate, learning to stop feeling guilt about things and feeling the pressure to have to do everything
Mhm.
becomes a part of that. And so we get stuck because I really feel it's because we're trying to do all the things and we are not going back to what you said earlier about grace, right? We're not giving ourselves grace, but we're not giving ourselves grace because we think that the only way to do it is a particular way. And there are thousands of ways to do things. Every entrepreneur who is running a business has done it differently, even if the things that you see look very similar to someone else. Every one of us is different. And so what we bring to the table is different. What our experiences are different. And the way we see the world is different. So it
Yeah.
necessarily has to be different, even when it looks very much the same, because we don't bring the same things to the table.
You preaching good over here. I hope people taking some notes. One of the things I say over and over to my clients is your business will go only as far as your mindset and habits are developed. That's what I usually
Yes.
say. So when you said mindset first, I'm like, that is like bread and butter to me. And I am there. I'm actually a psychologist and a peak performance coach. So I wear both of those
See,
hats.
you get to do that. You get
I
to do
get to
things
do
I
that.
don't get to do.
I do, and I work with that a lot. I agree with you completely that the mindset definitely is a hindrance. I mean, I see it all the time, and all those things you talked about, it's like, yep, all these things are things is bread and butter, the things we talk about on a constant basis on what you need to work on. So I completely agree. Completely agree. So
A
with the
and
groups
I
that you're
think
working with, you do see that as a stuck point.
absolutely, and, uh, most of the time, we don't come to it thinking it is our mindset, right? We're
No,
thinking it's some
good point.
outside thing. Right?
Yeah.
It's some external thing. Or if only this and that. The where this really started to click for me, and I will say it was something that was building over time. But where this started for me and then where it really stuck, I don't know how long ago now, 20 or so years ago, I got a book as a gift for Christmas, actually. And I wasn't happy that I got this book, and I won't go into all the details around it, but it was sort of like, why
Why the book, right?
the book
What they trying to say.
the book was and has turned out to be one of the best gifts I've ever gotten. But it took me about a year before I actually picked it up and read it. And the
Huh.
book was Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by
Oh,
Dennis
yeah.
Kimbro. And at that time, I had not read Think and Grow Rich, the original one by Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. And then Dennis Kimbro came to town to speak, and I got the opportunity to go hear him. And it was sort of what sent me on a different path. And then years ago, I did some training with Jack Canfield, who's the author of this Chicken Soup for the Soul books, and a
Okay.
lot of different variations of that. And I read his book, The Success Principles. And the very first success principle is to take 100% ownership of your life, right? And there's an
Okay.
equation that goes along with it: E plus R equals O, and it's event plus response equals outcome. And it started to gel for me and pull again, all these pieces together, that if I wanted a different life, I wanted different work, I had to make different choices than the
Mhm.
choices that I was making, right? And so when we stop to think about it, where we are in this moment is an accumulation, it's an aggregation of every moment, every decision, every action we've ever taken up
It
until
is.
this moment. And we can't change what is right now. And this is the I think the tragedy and the sort of the sticking point for most people is that we want things to be different than they are. But
Mhm.
until we accept that this moment is what it is, and then we can make new choices that impact and influence the future. We're living in sort of this resistance. And as long as we're resisting, we are continuing to create a level of suffering that doesn't allow us to move forward. And so it's that mindset of accepting what is, and then what do I need to do differently? What kinds of choices do I need to make that are different than the choices I've made in the past, that will allow me to move into and become the person I need to be to get what it is that I want, right? And so a number of different moving pieces that work together, and mindset, right? What we think, how we feel becomes the foundation and the basis for all of it. And so if we want something different, we have to do something different. If we're going to do something different, we have to believe something different, which means we have to start thinking something different.
If I was in church, I'd get up out my seat right now. I'm telling you. It is so true. And even to add to that, I completely agree. I completely agree with that. That's half the battle, showing up and being a cause for where you are and the results that you have, and just owning that, good or bad, it is what it is, and then moving forward. And then the other part of that, I would say that I also see is then people will make a choice. Okay, I want to be, you know, a millionaire entrepreneur, or, if we're going for that, whatever it is, I want to be a successful entrepreneur, but then they stay in the mindset of the past. Like, so they're staying in like old
Absolutely.
habits, old ways,
Absolutely. And
mindset.
it
They're
takes
saying they
both,
want a
right?
thing and they're not becoming a thing. You have to become a thing. That's an action. So mindset to me is an action. You have to make a daily choice. It's not just a thought process. You have to choose to show up that way. And those mindsets that mold you to the person you want to be, you got to start acting that now. That's the other part I see
Absolutely.
people miss. I see them miss that. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, yes. That's some
Sort
good
of
stuff.
going along with sort of to add to that, thinking about going back to women and wanting to be a millionaire, right? And again, the mission of the stated mission of the organization is 1 million women entrepreneurs, each achieving $1 million in an annual revenue. How do I need to think differently to be a CEO of a
Yes.
$1 million business, as opposed to someone who has a side hustle? Right? Not the people that have side hustles don't become millionaires or don't make millions of dollars and with side hustles. But it takes a shift in how we're thinking.
Yes.
and then a shift in what we're doing in order to make that.
Very, very true. Got another question for you. Just thinking it through all your experiences. I'm thinking experience versus a title, or a role, experience or even a skill. But is there one or two things that really stand out that you feel like all entrepreneurs and leaders should really take to heart that's really served you well, or yeah, just served you well in your life or even in your business?
For me, on the work that I do with clients, and again, this has come through the experiences that I've had. No matter what I've been doing or if I've been doing nothing, being willing to spend time with yourself and quiet thought, prayer, meditation, a combination of the three. I do all three, right?
Mm-hmm.
But depending on you and where you come from, maybe one of the 3 works better for you. But I am a woman of faith, and so I pray, I spend a lot of time alone. I have journals everywhere you turn, and I am a journaler with pen and paper. And so
Old school. Yep.
very old school, because there's a hand-brain connection that
There
makes a
is.
difference, and it helps to process what is happening and what it is we want. And so vision, the
Oh,
desire of what it is you want. Values, being really clear about what your values are, and then your priorities. And so those 3 things, vision, values, and priorities. And then I would
mm,
say purpose is part of that, right? And taking the time to really think about what it is that you want and what price you're willing to pay to get it.
that's a good
So
point.
for me, right, there's nothing stopping me from doing anything, except I am very clear that the choices that I make are going to be ethical and they're going to be legal,
Mhm.
right? Some people don't have those boundaries, and that's fine for them. And so they run their business in a way where those things are not a part of it. So being really clear about what you want and the price that you're willing to pay, vision, values, priority, and then purpose. And I believe that when we are clear about what it is we want, why it is we're doing it, our purpose, why we're here. And what I know for me is that my purpose then undergirds everything I do. So it doesn't matter if I'm acting in the role as a coach or a real estate strategist or a lawyer, right? Under all of that, my purpose is to love, serve, and give. And I do that through the various skills and talents and
Yes.
titles that I have. But it is so I could drop all of those and I would still love, serve, and give in some other way. And so when you can figure out what that is for you and
Mhm.
how that fits within your business, right? It then allows you to make the kinds of choices that you need to make, whether it is taking more classes or fewer classes or changing your niche or whatever it is, right? Because who you are has an impact and it influences the people around you, your clients, your customers, your potential clients and customers, the other people that you draw into your life, potential collaborators, people that can mentors, people that can help you move to the next level. And all of that is swirling around sort of how you put yourself out there, how you exude the essence of who you are in your life, in your business, and who you get to bring along with you if you choose to do that.
Yeah, I really like that you emphasize the price you're willing to pay, that hit, because I don't think people put that in the equation enough. People are so busy
No.
climbing up the ladder, they don't realize that they're burning it up as they go climbing up. They put so much time in. The example you gave was perfect. And you were like, do you realize how much more time that you're going to have, that's going to demand of you? I don't think people think about that.
No.
Sometimes they get up the ladder and they're miserable because they have not taken that into account. So I think that's a very good
Absolutely.
point.
Can I finish? It's sort of the end of the story. So there's a very good end of the story.
Okay.
Initially I thought maybe she would say, well, maybe I don't want to be general counsel, right? So we're
Mm,
talking about what is it that you're putting in right now that is keeping you from living the life that you want? Basically, if you become your boss and are responsible now for all the people, how is that going to get better? And so you talk through it, you look at it with which is the whole point of having a coach, right? Is someone that can
yes.
help you look at things with an objective eyes. And so let's look at what that means. Ultimately, it was if you want it to be different at the next level, you have to decide that it's going to be different at the next level. So, one
Mm,
of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur, being the general counsel, being the CEO of whatever, whether it's as an entrepreneur working for someone else, is that you're the boss and you get to set the tone of the culture. And so when you get that clarity about what it is you want, the price you're willing to pay, the priorities, you can then look at things and decide how you're going to make it different. So
there we go.
we spent a lot of time, right, in sort of this mindset about what she wanted in her next role. She wanted to go home and have dinner with her
Mm,
family. She was willing to do some work after dinner if necessary, right? And I would ask questions. If you didn't return a phone call or an email immediately, would the company that you work for, would it
mm,
go bankrupt today, right? And the answer was no. So
of course.
then why do you feel like you need to answer a phone call or a text message right this second? Right. And
Mhm.
and often we're so busy in autopilot that we don't stop to think about and that's all it really takes is to stop and think and say, it's not going to implode. And if it's going to implode, then what can you do, right? Let's address the obstacles. But
Mhm.
you have to stop and ask the questions honestly and then say, if that were to happen, what are the options? What can you do? And then
Right.
you can prepare for that and not feel like you have to be like on all the time.
So, so true. I wanna try to squeeze in one more question in there. We haven't spoke
Okay.
talked much about real estate. You said you're a real
Okay.
estate strategist and a lawyer, and a coach, so I'm not sure if those 3 go hand in hand, but tell us a little bit about that piece of your
Okay. So the real estate piece is in service to entrepreneurs and this is a shift that is happening. I've been in real estate for about 8 years now, but to my point earlier about bringing the pieces together instead of having it, oh, I'm a real estate agent, oh, I'm a this, oh, I'm a that. How can I bring everything together so that it feels seamless for me and it makes sense to the people that I work with?
Mhm.
And so the real estate piece now is about serving entrepreneurs and others, creatives and coaches who are doing events. They are like holding retreats and renting space from other people and looking at whether or not it makes sense for them, right, to either lease property long term or
Mm,
be owners. And one of the benefits of that is that you can use your property reproducing by making it available to other people. So instead of you renting space for an event, why not rent it to other people or lease it to other people
mhm.
for them to use it? It pays the mortgage. You get to use it when you need it because most of us as a coach, I don't need space all the time.
Right.
But when I need it, I want it, and I don't necessarily want to give it to someone else. Now, when I'm looking at my bigger picture, studio space, vent space, things like that, when I can have, and that's part of my vision and where I'm going, right? And it's like, well, if I could do this for me, I can help others do it as well. And so that is the direction of the real estate. Now, if someone wants a house or home, we can do that too. But looking at this, how can you, as a business owner, have the property that you need, the real estate that you need to facilitate the vision that you have for your business and use it as income producing with other people as well.
And that's a good business strategy, and so I can see why they consult because people don't always think about that. So
No,
I'm glad you mentioned this. So this is what I like about this is like little, not little. These are like major nuggets that get dropped that people can take on and say, okay, something else to think about, something new here. So thank you
and
for
again,
sharing.
it's something that came from work with a client. So I was working with a client who she runs a law firm
Mhm.
and we were having conversation. Her big vision was ultimately to own the building that her law practice is in. I was like, that's so smart. It's like, and how can I do the same thing? Right.
Mhm.
A co-work space has been a big thing for a while.
Mhm.
And so my thinking started there for me in a co-work space. I work from home, but it's nice to get out and
Yeah.
be in the world and not have to work from your home and to have a studio. We were talking about, let's just call it distractions before we got started, right? If
Yeah.
I could have a studio, then I could minimize the distractions that come from recording from home and things like
I'm
that.
home.
So
Yes, yes.
it
I
sent me
need to
on a
think about
path.
that for
If I could
myself.
do it for me, I can do it for others.
I love that. Okay. Well, before we wrap, I know it's almost that time. Is there any last minute nuggets, anything upcoming for your business or eWomen, anything you want to share?
Absolutely. I would love to share. I have two opportunities, actually, or two and a half opportunities with eWomen host, and then in the other chapters, the host as well. I host a monthly, right now, it's a monthly, it's called Strategic Business Introduction, and it's an opportunity for entrepreneurs to get together. We do some masterminding, have an opportunity to share about your business and get some feedback and help on a challenge or an opportunity that you're facing. For
Oh,
your
that's nice.
audience, anyone who's interested in attending one of those, they can reach out to me and attend as my guest. So I make that available as an opportunity. And that those strategic business introductions are the second Thursday from 9 to 11 Pacific time. I'm in California, so those are Pacific time. But on January 21st, and so for those of you who are watching this before January 21st, I have a speaker coming for an event who's going to be talking about leveraging social media and how,
Oh,
particularly for people who don't like social media. And a lot of my clients will start and they'll say, "Yeah, I don't use social media. I don't like social media." And so our speaker Veronica Bond is going to be talking particularly to those people and how you can incorporate it in a way that works for you, right?
for
And I
you.
think that's the bottom line is that we don't have to do everything. We just have to do the right things that work for us and align with our values. And so that's where she's coming from. So if anyone is interested and they register for that, I will give a second strategic business introduction. So you can get basically a twofer for that. And so I know you're going to put the links in
Yes.
the for that. And then I have a program, it's called the Mindful Five, very much about mindfulness and using mindfulness, including, as I mentioned earlier, prayer, meditation, journaling, a quiet time reflection as a way to get clear about what it is you're doing, where it is you're going. And so the Mindful Five is a program that will help you to do exactly that. And so it's the Mindful Five.
Okay, and we will put that, of course, in the description. Everybody has 5 minutes now. I know we're busy, so this is practical. It's very doable. You can fit this in. You can start your day or end your day or both with 5 minutes. So this is like very good for our busy high performers that are listening to this. No excuses there. Well, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being. and sharing your wisdom, nuggets, and all the things and your stories. It has been a pleasure. It has truly been a pleasure. I have learned a lot myself. And thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and I hope this is helpful for your community.